Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Monday, October the 13th, 2025. Stock market has been closed for a little shy of 20 minutes right now. So we're getting this done just a little bit after the close. Good day in the stock market today, following a really, really ugly day on Friday. I got to tell you, when I recorded the podcast on Friday morning, because I was on the road traveling Friday during the early afternoon, which is my time when the stock market closes. We drove up to some family's house in Idaho for a wedding this weekend. Everything about the weekend was great except for what the markets did on Friday, and I got to tell you, one tariff comment by our president and. Wow, I mean, talk about not just a turnaround, but just what I would consider a massive, massive overreaction. I really thought. Do you remember what was it? Maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago, I was doing one of these podcasts, and I talked about how the markets aren't getting as spooked as they used to get about tariff announcements, good or bad. They don't get spooked as much when there's a tariff announcement that is, kind of negative. We're going to slap this big tariff on somebody or these tariffs on these countries. It doesn't react quite as positive as it used to when the tone softens. Okay, we got to deal with so and so, or we're gonna postpone these tariffs and delay the start date of these tariffs. But it almost felt Friday like we collectively, like everyone that's got money in the market, collectively forgot how these tariffs announcements work and what their purpose is and what usually happens later on. Usually a big announcement is made about tariffs, good or bad. The markets react. They go kind of wild, whether that's to the upside or to the downside. And then we got to that point where we just weren't doing that because we realized how and why Trump is using these tariffs, the fact that most of the time, if not all the time, they don't paint as ugly a picture as initially the market reaction would make you believe there's going to be. And then, we went along for a month and a half, 2 months, where there weren't any major announcements of that sort. And we just completely forgot. It's like everyone that trades money just completely forgot. So it was ugly. I believe at the end of the day on Friday that the Dow was down something like 800 points, that the NASDAQ was down 800 points. From a percentage standpoint, the NASDAQ took a way bigger hit than the Dow, unfortunately. It just absolutely ugly. But then, shortly after the markets closed, I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, Trump comes out and makes a comment about we'll work this stuff out with China. It's not going to be as bad as we think. Everything will be fine. All of a sudden the tone softens. And today we get back a pretty good sized chunk of what we gave up. When you look at this chart right here and this and I know it's really small, but this very last OHLC bar, it doesn't look like we got as much back as we did because Friday shows where we were at, and we were in the positive Friday morning. And if you count how far the Dow Jones was up or how far the NASDAQ was up, and then look at how far it turned around and went down, that's why it creates this really, really big line right there. Well, this is where it ended on Friday, and this is where it opened today, and this is where it closed. So it got back well over half of what it gave up. It kind of, it almost kind of doesn't give that appearance because you got this little tiny hash mark right here. But remember, that was the close on Friday down here. And so it really moved up pretty dramatically today to start with and stayed high pretty much the entire day. If you looked at the 1 day intraday chart of any of the three major indexes, you can see, NASDAQ, this is a really high open, 400 plus points, I believe, wobbled a little bit. I think it got down to where it was only a couple hundred points to the upside. Then it went up again, down again. Then, starting around 11 o'clock Eastern time, it got a little momentum and then just kind of stayed. I mean, that's relatively steady for the majority of the trading day. And the other two indexes look very similar to that. So, great rebound today. Hard to know if the rebound we saw today is going to continue. I kind of think it is, because tomorrow we're going to start getting earnings. I think JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs's numbers are going to look really good. Later in the week, we get some more earnings. First part of next week, we get into some of the bigger tech companies. We start tomorrow with 3.5 to 4 weeks of getting a feel for how companies are doing. And remember, a lot of these companies now, they reported last quarter having trying to gauge as best they could what tariffs were going to do to the company. Now they're going to have a quarter worth of data to be able to say, well, these tariffs are really hurting us worse than we thought, or these tariffs aren't hurting us as bad as we thought, or we're losing a little bit of ground here, but we're making up for it here. You're going to hear a lot of talk about that, especially with the companies that manufacture and sell products, actual physical products versus services. Services may not get dinged up as much as the product sector and the retail sectors. Computers, microchips, iPhones, other cellular phones, and then retail stores, Target, Walmart, Costco, places like that. We're going to see how much of an impact these tariffs are really having. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be kind of fun. I sent out a trade a little while ago for the just before I started this recording. Some of you might be listening to this before you've even taken a look at the trade. Long iron condor on Apple. And I went all the way out to, I don't usually, long iron condors are usually shorter term trades. I like that Apple, like a lot of companies, got back up between where it was at the beginning of the day on Friday, where it ended on Friday. Not as big a rebound on Apple as some companies, but it did not cross over technically on the RSI, didn't cross over technically on the 5 and 20-day moving average. I think Apple will consolidate back up in this range before the earnings, and we may be able to get out of this trade with profit before their earnings. They report on Thursday the 30th of this month, and so I set the expiration on this long iron condor on November 7th. So we've got a full week plus a day of trading before our Apple option expires. So if Apple has a little bit of run, then falls again and sort of sits in between the strike price of our two long options, our long call and our long put, that'll be okay. I think there's a chance we'll get back up in this area at 250 or above. It's trading above our theoretical guaranteed profit area. I set a 25% target profit. I got to tell you, if prior to the day of earnings, we had 15, 16, 17% in this trade, I'd probably take it and get out. Our DIA trade, because of what happened Friday, it looked kind of bad. I think it came back a long ways today. Still down about 8%, but much improved from where it was. And same thing with our NVIDIA and our Palantir trades. They gave up a lot on Friday, so they went down a little bit, got a lot back today. And when we add this Apple trade in, I think we're still going to look really good in these next couple of days. I sent out 3 triple play trades. I don't think I have any of them. Well, I do have them on here, but I have not put Texas Instrument. I haven't put the numbers for Texas Instrument in yet. Taiwan Semiconductors, Johnson & Johnson, Texas Instrument. Johnson & Johnson, I chose, they're all 3 long iron condors as well. I chose this coming Friday is the expiration date for Johnson & Johnson because they report tomorrow morning at the open of the market. For the other 2, I chose next week because they either report at the end of this week or the very first part of next week. Anticipate we'll be in those trades just a little bit longer than some others. We took a big hit on Friday on MSTR, but I got to tell you, they had a nice rebound today. At least they did the last time I looked. Let's make sure in the last 30 minutes of the market they didn't drop. Nice rebound today. I believe this will build. Probably we're going to have to roll this trade out. We need them to go up above and finish above 340 before the end of the week. They could very easily get back up there, but whether they do it this week or not, all it would take is one day this week being a little bit off, and they might not make it back up there before the end of this week. Probably we'll roll this out one more week. I might even add a couple more contracts to bring my average price per share of all of my contracts down a little bit. I'll let you know if I do that and make sure you're able to do it at the same time. But other than that, Nike doesn't look good right now on our long iron condors, but I'm just not worried about Nike because we've still got till the middle of November and we've got options that are going to expire and we can roll them. A double diagonal is such an easy trade to adjust. I know it looks a little bit crummy right now, but the Nike trade's going to be fine. It really is. Down about 40%, but I got to tell you, just not real worried about Nike. If it continues down, and I've got to change this, I believe we rolled this out to, I think I've got one more adjustment I have to put in here. I think I've got to update this, and you'll see that it looks a lot better with the most recent update I've made. Sorry for not having that in there, but it's an improving trade. It's not down all that much right now, and it'll get better. Government's still closed. I don't care. I really don't. I honestly, I feel bad for people that are going to miss paychecks, those that should be getting them, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. But for the government workers whose jobs I wish didn't exist, I don't really feel bad for them. I hope they find other work. I don't wish financial pain on people. I hope they find other work. I'm just kind of glad that I'd be glad if their government job got eliminated. So I hope that doesn't sound too callous. I don't want people to not succeed in life. I don't want them to not do well. I would just like to see the government downsized dramatically. So all these things that are on tap for this week: jobless claims, PPI final demand, retail sales, Philadelphia Fed, housing starts, import and exports, industrial production. None of it's going to happen, and I don't really care. I'm okay not getting the reports and just letting earnings, good or bad, drive the market. That's kind of what I hope happens. So on color trades, I think we are completely set. Bank of America will report tomorrow, I think, or tomorrow or Wednesday. We've got long puts that'll be in place until the end of this week. We might end up rolling them very quickly, but we're sitting in a good spot right now. Everything else we've got set up to get us through earnings with the positions that we have. We might, if the markets really rebound significantly, we might end up rolling some long puts up in strike price, but probably leave them in the expiration dates they're at. So we're good to go. That's basically what I have for a Monday. Hope we have a great week. Hope you have a great week, and I'll be back on sometime tomorrow to record Tuesday's podcast. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.